because there's...
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the One Trick Hero Podcast, Episode 10. I am your host, Paxfos. With me today, as always, is Fish Whisper.
You sure my lighting is all right?
And Voxia. What did you just say?
I said, are you sure my lighting is all right?
Yeah,
it's
your
hard for me
lighting's...
to tell because I turned down my monitor brightness, but then it makes it look like my lighting's weird on my monitor.
No, that's good. It's not. Yeah, that's good. It's
okay.
Honestly, you need to get a lighting setup though.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't really watch anyway; they listen.
Well, I know, but if you're gonna start streaming or doing anything, like honestly,
well, obviously,
just go to Walmart and spend like $10 on some desk lamps and a little fabric to cover.
Well, I have a desk lamp. It's just behind my monitor because it's a clamp one. I need to get one that can, like a base one. But all the ones I see when I go places
I have
are
a
too
clamp
big.
one too. I have a clamp one. I have a clamp one right here on this part of the desk, and then I have a stand one.
You see, I don't have a shelf thing above to clamp it to. I have to clamp it on the underside of my desk at the back.
Oh, well, I mean that works too.
You can just mount it to your wall.
That's where it is,
yeah.
but it's not long enough to twist around. If it was longer, I might be able to twist around and have it shoot like from the side of my monitor and come.
That's
this
what
way.
I do. Mine are. I have one on each side of the monitor.
But it's
only
short. I mean, it was a random thing I found in my room, so I could. I could
well, one of my desk lamps was random. The other one I just bought got two natural light bulbs for like $5.
Get more
and then
furniture.
I just bought like some white fabric, and I just like rubber banded
I
over
remember you
it.
showing me that.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Do you shine it straight at your face? Or
Yeah,
do you shine
straight at the face. Yeah, but the fabric makes it so it doesn't like hurt my
Money
eyes.
shot, right? Money
shot.
shot.
Okay, all right. So, anyways, just in case anybody isn't aware, we did take a 1-week hiatus from the show because we realized that basically everything we were doing, Blizzard was doing, but better, which makes sense.
Oh yeah, fuck! I was gonna see if I had spare aluminum foil so I could put on my head when we started this one. So when we explain this, I could be like, see. I have to wear this because Blizzard keeps stealing our ideas. Every time we decided we were going to do something different, so we did something that nobody was doing, and then as soon as we started doing it, Blizzard started
when we started the podcast, nobody was doing a top 5, and nobody was doing like a here's the best, here's our like player of the week type thing. At least not that we knew of. I did some preliminary research. I was like, okay, nobody's doing this. Let's do this. Make that the format for the show. Well. Now Blizzard's doing it, and they have, of course, huge production quality. They can actually do these like really awesome like.
Yeah, I mean they own like everything.
Well, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, they're basically way better at what we're doing.
Exactly.
I mean, and it's not really like a conspiracy thing, It's not like it's not like getting top 5 clips and stuff is some Graham.
No,
it's not like it wasn't obvious shit that everyone should be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we wanted to stand out because nobody else was really doing it.
Yeah, and now
see the thing that makes it kind of weird though is we would say stuff like week 1 or 2, we'd be like, we think this about this team, and everybody like all the analysts and stuff would be saying different shit, and then the next week they'd be saying what we said.
Yeah, it was definitely
I still
odd.
think they copied
us.
We're just ahead of the curve,
Yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Either way, so what we decided to do is we're going to switch it up a little bit. We really don't know what we're going to do. We just know we like to talk about Overwatch for an hour plus. So what we're basically just going to freeform it here and just talk about random shit going on throughout the week with concerning Overwatch League. Kind of just go over our thoughts, talk about people. If we want to show clips, memes, or whatever, if you guys are catching this live and you want to show clips, memes, or whatever, feel free to put it in the chat. We're just going to kind of freeball it.
Freeballing.
Freeball's
my favorite. Freeball is my favorite Aerosmith song.
There will be a lot. What?
Freeball is my favorite Aerosmith song. Actually, at concerts, people always like Freeball.
Everybody's like, play Freeball.
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 What is going on? Am I out of the loop with this?
Apparently.
Freeball.
What?
Play Freeball.
That's the other thing I was going to mention.
It's like 9 minutes long.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. Wow.
I guess I'm not an
piano
solo.
I guess I'm not an Aerosmith fan. Jeez. Anyways, so I was just gonna say we're gonna be going on quite a few more tangents. Just kind of goofing off.
Yes.
Anyways, so I'm gonna start this right off with a wowzer. XQC is no longer on the Dallas Fuel.
Wowzer!
Yeah, I don't know.
Complete shock. I did not think that would happen at all.
Yeah.
Man,
In case anyone was unfamiliar with that sound we recently got a soundboard, so we're going to be throwing that in.
Actually, it's a human soundboard. We spent a little bit of extra money to get Voxia upgrades as the human soundboard.
Yes.
Can I get a fart noise? Yeah, see?
Perfect. Fantastic.
I don't even
Yeah,
need
my
a
nickname is the noise complaint.
noise. Oh, that's true. Okay, so for QuakeCon, it's this celebration where you get together and drink a lot of alcohol and pretend to play video games. Vox and I went to 2015. I think it's last year we went, and within 5 minutes of us arriving at the hotel, we already had a noise complaint due to Vox.
Yeah.
So his
I wonder
I was in
why.
line for 10 minutes and I got kicked out both times.
good
They
times.
can't just turn your volume down in real life.
Yes.
Nope.
I have Vox is the only person on my Discord that I have like the volume slider like.
Yes.
I guess it-
45%.
That would
Yeah, I
be-
think it's like 40% or something like that. Yeah.
And that's all you need.
Oh my goodness. Okay, but anyways, so
I should be a Foley artist. That's what I should do.
be a what?
Just go study sound engineering and then become a Foley artist. They're the people that do sound effects for stuff. Like they're the people that like in a movie where obviously when you punch somebody it doesn't actually make like it can make like that but it doesn't sound like the.
I was gonna
big
say I
wet
think it
slap.
sounds a little bit like that.
It doesn't
Depends
sound like
on what
the
you hit
fucking-
them with.
It's not like the fucking sound that makes.
Are
when
you
hit,
hitting
like,
them
a
with your
steak, right?
dick? You're just like
Like that.
Because
Well,
if that's the case,
No,
it's
no,
just gonna...
you know what I'm talking about, right? Like especially movies that are kind of corny or something.
Yeah, I know what it sounds like when you hit someone with your dick. I understand.
But like they use props and shit to make specific sound effects for movies.
Yeah.
So like they'll sit there and take like a slab of meat and like beat the shit out of it to make sounds for like people hitting each other or like dying sounds or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Seems like fun.
Anyways, so speaking of dying, let's go back to XQC. So so they're basically what Dallas Fuel said is they came out and they were like, yeah, we got rid of him because we couldn't rely on him for practice at all. Because like he'd be unbanned and then immediately get banned again. He's gotten to play like what 4 games, if that.
Plus, what the first time it wasn't
Yeah,
even
something
the first
like
time he got banned. It wasn't even really all about the comments. It was more about Envy. The reason Envy benched him was because he kept showing up late or not at all to scrims and shit. Which is, if you're getting paid
Yeah.
as a professional to be there and practice with your team, not only are you not responsible for yourself because you're not showing up to something you're paid to do, but you're also letting your team down by making them have to practice without you and shit. Like
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah.
And apparently
That
it
does
was
make it
you know,
tough.
I mean, it sucks though because he is a really good player, and
it's not as good as Fissure.
I don't know. I think XQC is probably one of the best main tanks like there is, maybe.
I mean, yeah,
I-
he's really good.
He's
but
really good, and he's got a
He
huge
is.
fan base. But I mean, what
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? You know
At least double ours.
double R's.
what?
I said his fan base is at least double the size of ours.
Oh, R. I think even double R's is like a
Yeah, I
size.
thought you
I
liked
was like,
pups. I was like, man, I've
No.
seen there's a store like down the street from me that advertises on their sign sells bras up to a K cup, and I'm like, I can't even imagine how big K cups are. Like, how big is
Those
a K
things
cup?
that rich people use to make coffee?
Is that like Or those? Do you have like literal sandbags on your chest?
Yes,
fucking
they
cake
feel
up?
like
God damn.
bags of sand.
So, but anyways, I don't know. I was thinking about the whole thing, and his most recent ban was for spamming tryhard7 in the chat, which I didn't know this until I guess Malik made an article about it. But apparently, that's a racially charged emote. I
Yeah,
have
I mean,
never
again,
heard of that until
it's not racist. It's not racist itself. It's just racially insensitive because people just use it 90% of the time, or probably 99% of the time. Whenever on any stream there's a black person that shows up, right?
I
So
have
it's not
not.
that
I
it's
had not
racist.
seen that
It's just one of
myself.
those like, her, there's a black guy on the screen. I'm gonna put a black guy emote in the chat because I'm funny. kinda
Okay,
thing.
well, I
That's all.
I watch Twitch chat while I watch the stream, and I haven't even really
Yeah.
noted. I haven't even really noticed that until this whole thing blew up, and now
because you don't really watch Twitch chat.
Yeah,
No.
no, I mean it was there, and Malik joked about it, and then
was it
XQC
happening beforehand like a lot? I wasn't noticing a lot.
I don't know.
It's
I
been
don't
a
watch
thing-
Twitch
Yeah,
chat.
it's been a thing that like people spam tryhard in the chat when Malik was on like any other stream and stuff too, and it's not just a Malik thing. It happens with like a lot of like streamers and stuff. It's just it's like again, I would not say it's racist, but like if you go look at Malik's tweets, he tweeted like his explanation. And like he's not personally bothered by it, but he's just
Right.
it's like he says. I'm using his words when I say it's not racist, but it's insensitive because it's like obviously clearly done to be like a stupid joke in a way, but it's also like a bit much at times, you know. Like what is the point? Like
Well, yeah, I don't know.
you know, it's essentially the same thing as like, you know, if there's like I don't know. There's other examples of people using a specific emote because it looks kind of like somebody on the screen, which isn't wrong. But people use it in a way that's too much at times.
Well, I guess that's true, but and I mean, and it is true. But my thing with XQ. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's the reason that the tryhard thing gets a lot of more controversy, but things like Kona, like, you know, you ever seen one where you see like there's like a Larry the Cable looking guy looking guy in a crowd or something, and people spam like Kona, like the fat redneck looking Chumo. It's kind of that thing, but the reason tryhard gets more controversy is because there's a lot of other really racially charged like shit and memes on Twitch in general, like people spamming, you know, fucking tryhard and then like trying to spell out, you know, fucking actual racial slurs and throw it in there. Like there's a bunch of copy pastas, plus in you know, at least this country and a lot of the world, there's a lot of other socioeconomical weight and stuff on the fucking all the racist issues. So it's just kind of like
but what I was saying is, like, we're talking about like the people that are the thing I was talking about is, as soon as this whole thing blew up, tryhard 7's all over the chat completely, and it's not it's not because these guys are closet racist or whatever. They're just now wanting to troll everybody because, you know, their XQC, who's the most popular player, got banned for this. So now they're just like tryhards.
A lot of them are just memers at heart. A lot of them are salty XQC fans.
That's why I think the banning.
A lot of them are idiots. I think probably 12.
I think the punishment was ridiculous, to be honest with you, because first
that wasn't the only thing he got punished for.
Well, no, there's other things.
One of the things that's kind of stupid about the whole thing is that was a minor thing that Blizzard just added in, you know, because when you punish somebody for doing a lot of dumb things, you can list out like the dumb things they punish them for. Because especially in like a league or something, right? It's holistic. You don't. You get punished. You can get punished based on like character stuff.
Yeah, I know,
like,
but I'm saying he was also getting
people focused on that one micro part of it.
But the other part of it was something you can. The other part of it was something you could even argue even more, because it was talking about him getting into it with casters on Twitter. But it's like,
well, yeah, he said the casting was cancer.
But the casters are also provoking it a little bit too. Not always,
but that's the caster's job.
The
caster's job aren't to
the player.
Well, provoke. Monty didn't really say anything inflammatory. Monty said some stuff and also genuinely fucking wanted to help XQC.
That was after.
On some of the stuff, but I'm telling you that if it was me being XQC and I would have had Monty say some of the stuff that he was saying too, it would have pissed me off.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
it's
but
not,
the point is you're a player in a professional organization.
I understand that.
Even in sports, even in traditional sports, you're not really supposed to get into it with the people whose job it is to criticize you. They can go too far. I'm not saying they're above reproach, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if the casters or analysts are making personal attacks on the players or stuff like that, that's stupid. But like, if they're criticizing you, and even if they go a little too far with the criticism, you know, that's the thing you're supposed to go through management or the league. Like, you know, you're supposed to say, well, you know, why do they do this? To just throw the shit out there on Twitter when you're a public figure, and it's not your job to criticize the casters; it's their job to criticize you.
I agree. He could have handled it better.
I'll say the problem is
especially when you also have a fuck ton of other controversy surrounding you, right? Would anybody really would have been that big of a deal if it was a player that had never been involved?
Hold on, Vox. Hold on, Vox. Calm down. XQC, his problem is he's vocal. That's literally it. He's speaking what he probably is feeling and thinking, and that is and obviously he needs to rein that in. But I think the punishments are on a layered level. For instance, like the slur against Muma, I don't think, and his demeanor doesn't show that he's homophobic. He's not a homophobic person, but that was like the gamer the slang stuff that people that play video games are generally say this kind of stuff, you know. And it's whether it was right or wrong, that's a different argument. But it's the culture that the gamers have been in. So it's like, when he says this stuff, he's not actually being homophobic, but like he wanted to, you know, and that's punish accordingly. But I feel like banning over things that are basically just him being a part of the culture and saying stuff like that, I think that's a bit ridiculous. There needed to be action, but
obviously if he got banned the first time, because he got a small ban the first time. The second time is obviously going to be worse because he still can't stop being controversial.
Wasn't that small? Wasn't it the whole stage?
No, that was Dallas Fuel's. That was not Blizzard's ban. Blizzard banned him for 2 matches.
Fuel did it. Okay.
Fuel made him sent the bench
I
for the
gotcha.
entire stage 1 for missing scrims and other shit.
And then on top of that, we also have what was it? The to me the other thing was the imbalance in the punishment. So they give Tyrong $1,000 fine.
Well, he also made a public apology before Blizzard even considered any action and donated $1,000 or $2,000
and it
to
was
a charity.
His first defense.
Yeah, that's true.
But also keep in mind, I think a lot of people miss this. He's a coach, right? So it's not that a coach necessarily shouldn't. It's not like coaches, shouldn't be. It's just that the coaches in esports in general have way less spotlight than any of the players. So like when they mess up, Blizzard's not going to be as should they be? Sure, but they're not going to be as worried about it because they don't have as much following and spotlight. So that it's going to be harder for a coach to create as much controversy as a player, especially one of XQC's fame on Twitch and his follower base is going to, right?
Yeah.
Tyrong, he's the coach of Houston. Houston's a pretty popular team, but most people, even fans, they don't really pay much attention to coaches on Twitter or like other places. It's just kind of one of those sad things about esports. Coaches really should get more exposure and they should share more in I can't think of the word, I'm brain farting it, but they should get more credit, right?
Yeah.
So since they kind of generally have a less following and stuff, if they do something stupid, it's less likely to be a big thing that could damage like Blizzard's image. So that's kind of one of those bias things that's probably going to play into it, even if Blizzard isn't realizing that's what they're doing, right?
I don't know. I just feel like
Plus,
that there's
I think the fact that he donated, because he donated $1,000 or $2,000 to a charity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but XQC did that with the comment he made when he made that comment to Muma. He donated.
But he do it before he got punished or after?
Well, after, because he found out Blizzard.
I guess Tyron did it before there was even any.
Well, right, I know, because he got wind of it early on. I mean, but
yeah.
the point is, like, I think some of it's a little unfair, and some of it, I think a lot of it is being, what's the word? People are like over sensationalizing a lot of it on all ends, on the casters end, on XQC's end.
That's why I don't even want to talk about it, because
it's just a lot of like hyper. And the other thing is, it's a brand new league, and they're kind of fleshing out, because even what's his name, Nate Nanzer, commissioner, was when they were talking about how punishment's going to be dealt with. He goes, they have a set of rules, but basically everything's going to be case by case. Well, now we're seeing case by case, and that's cool, but I think we kind of need to see a little bit more fleshed out rules for certain things. Because, I mean, they basically had a clause, like, all the players...
Case by case.
Well, I am too,
as long
but...
as it's not a corrupt...
But especially when you're talking
but
especially when you're talking about somebody as popular as XQC, when it comes to case by case, and his case is more severe, I can understand why they would give him the more severe punishment. But now you're getting people raising into question like the different, like, who's judging this and who really, there's a lot to it, and I can see why there's doubt. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean we've seen it with XQC. If we see a bunch of other players and there's a bunch of other questionable shit, right? Then there's more cause for concern. But if it's just XQC at the moment,
yeah,
if he's a sacrificial lamb, it's still his own fault. At the end of the day, we do live in a world where people can get fired from any job in the world for saying something stupid on Facebook.
Well,
whether
and that's I was gonna say that's another.
Whether I agree with that being a thing.
That's an ethical conversation.
Is not even like important, because the reality is that's the world we fucking live in. You have to be conscious of where you're putting yourself, especially if you're throwing yourself into public light.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another entire conversation.
At the end of the whole thing, it's all stuff he could have controlled if he wanted to done the action.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
whether the suspension seemed fair or not,
all of us, I know the three of us have a lot of first-hand experiments and experience, sure, with unfair punishment. And a lot of the time, it's better to just kind of take the lash and then figure out what you can do in the background to fucking move on from it. Then, because what XQC reminds me of. See, now again, this is just I'm just talking about the image he's created for himself, not who he actually is as a person or anything, right? Because I don't know him personally, I can't say. But the image he's kind of created for himself, he comes across as the kind of person that, like, when shit gets thrown on them, right? They kind of start like spinning around really fast. Like when shit hits the fan, they turn the fan to high speed to try to throw the shit off of it really fast, rather than just turning the fan off, cleaning the shit off, trying to figure out why the shit got on the fan in the first place. and then turning the fan back on after the shit's off of it, right? If you could just like, if he could have just kept quiet about stuff and like, just reined in his like need to be vocal about some shit and just kind of laid back a bit, he probably wouldn't have had all this, it wouldn't have gone the way it did, more than likely.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know it's difficult to rein yourself in. I don't like to rein myself in, but sometimes, sometimes it's just a thing you have to, if you want to be. But he also streamed more than he practiced with his team and stuff. So did he really want to be in Overwatch League?
I think he did.
His actions don't speak like he did. I think he did, but he also is not mature enough to know that.
I think he wanted to be in it. I just think his stream is more lucrative than what Overwatch League was.
Well, that's true.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't blame
I know. At the end of the day, since he's got a full-time gig with his streaming stuff to where he's probably was making more than what he was doing from the Overwatch League, you kind of got to protect.
I think he did want to be in Overwatch. Like I just think he was very conflicted, and it's a conflict that you can easily see, right? You have to train super hard, go to scrims, be super serious, control yourself and stuff to be in this league. But the benefit is you get this kind of like prestige, from being a pro player. Or you can just be yourself and relax and do whatever the hell you want as a streamer and not really worry about it.
Well, the other thing to think about is possibly. The other thing to think about is he possibly wasn't meshing well with the fuel, because think about how his success with Arc 6, when he had his team Arc 6, and he was kind of like the gears behind the working of that, and that team did very well, and he was more comfortable in that position, and I feel like possibly part of it was he was thrown into the situation as a piece of the puzzle, and he wasn't able to. I don't think his input was maybe recognized as much as he wanted it to be. That's a possibility, especially considering this was a previous roster, Envious, and they probably had a certain method, and when he came in, it didn't. I think the field
just flat out has way more issues than XQC by itself.
Oh yeah,
so, but I think.
Oh yeah.
I just mean there's so many more other stuff that seems to be going on there that I don't think it really would have mattered who they threw in his place for there.
Yeah.
I think they still would have struggled as far as being able to find success with the group.
Oh, absolutely.
I think so. But absolutely. I think Pex makes a good point though, because I think that XQC's, I think he's he was doing well with Arc 6, but I think he's the kind of personality where you have to have really people specifically good at dealing with that type of personality, otherwise he's going to clash, because it happened, right? We saw it happen.
Well, I was gonna,
maybe you could put more blame on Envious, right, for not figuring out ways to help him rein in his personality and like cool his jets. But then again, maybe they did. Maybe they fucking told him plenty of times, like, hey, stop it, quit it, and he just would.
That's not a healthy environment if you have to withdraw your personality like to a major degree. If that was the case and his personality was not meshing at all whatsoever, what's he gonna do? Change his personality, which would cause a lot of stress, or he would just that's not what he wants to do. Like,
well, I mean, if they're picking somebody up that they're like, okay, we're gonna change every single thing he does and make him behave completely differently, why the hell did they pick him up?
Exactly. Yeah. That's
and but you could also be yourself totally offline, but not throw shit on Twitter too.
To be fair, his stuff being on his Twitch, that kind of is his offline, when he's playing on Twitch. Like, as far because with as much as he does it, he probably doesn't really consider that being like online or in the public spotlight, even though he's got that many people watching him. That's his offline. That's what he does to wind down. Yeah. So that's like
I'm talking more about his Twitter response.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because there was the mention of him, using the Tryhard 7 emote, but most of the stuff and most of the shit he got for this latest thing was because of the comments.
Well, and the last thing to think about too, as a successful streamer, because it's different. If you're a pro, if you're like, let's say Taimu, or if you're like Jake or something, you're a pro, you are a Overwatch player, you're a streamer second, and your only streaming is kind of like just like an on the side thing. It's like, I'll stream today. You don't really expect to get much out of it. It's not something that you're really focusing on. XQC is a streamer. He has a huge following. And a part of being a streamer is social media interaction. That is part of the business. That's part of what makes you money, is putting your shit on Twitter, putting your shit on Instagram, putting your shit on all that stuff. That is what makes you, that's what gets you the deals. That's what gets you the drama, and that's what bumps up your numbers. So he's used to living and being in that kind of lifestyle where anything happens, he puts it out on social media and he spins it to be able to something that's profitable. I mean, if you are a famous streamer, that's what you do. So he's actually one of the only ones like that in the league. So that's why it's like
there's streamers in in other esports at least, who are huge streamers, borderline full time, and still managed to stay
Well,
out of
yeah.
controversy.
Well, I mean, if
Yeah.
we're just throwing the examples, I mean, Siegel pretty much just shut down all of his streaming.
Oh
to be a
yeah.
pro.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Siegel was just like, okay, we're done with
Yeah.
this. I'm a pro. I'm going to be a professional. So
Yep.
I mean, it's doable, but he completely, for the most part, shut down all the streaming because he's doing it.
Oh yeah, Siegel's barely
Yeah.
on social media anymore. You barely see him on clips because he's just focusing on professional, which that was his decision. He did
Did he say when he did that it's because he couldn't balance it?
Well,
Personally?
yeah, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Being an
That is a
Overwatch
lot.
He just said he
Yeah.
thought it would be too much at a time. Yeah, he
Like-
said before, I think he, like, right when he got brought up on the league, I think he said that he didn't wouldn't be streaming very often just because he was going to throw everything he had into
Yep.
the actual Overwatch league.
Yep.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Siegel had as big of, if not a bigger fan base than XQC, by far.
Better fan base too.
Well, maybe I wouldn't.
Overall, I think a little less
um,
immature.
Well, like I don't know. The thing with XQC is interesting is I find him fun to watch because he's just like I love how absolutely nuts that guy is. He says anything he's thinking, and that's fun. And like
You see,
as from an entertainment standpoint, that is really fun to watch. He's not filtered.
I don't find him fun to watch because I can hardly understand a fucking word he says, which
well,
is interesting.
because
I'm really good at understanding people with thick accents and people who barely speak English, but I cannot decipher half of that guy's fucking
I'm a
sentences.
Canuck. I'm a Canuck, so I have friends and family that speak that fast and that quick, and I can follow him pretty well. That's
I do not have an issue understanding him. Also, I saw him jump around like a monkey once, and that was kind of interesting.
yeah. He goes out there. He does this shit. That's what makes him entertaining. That's the same
I
thing
don't
with like.
watch the stream
well,
very much, though.
It's the same thing like Doctor Disrespect. What makes him fun to watch? The dude fucking does outrageous shit. It's fun. That's interesting.
That's another streamer I don't watch.
Just 2 time.
Mr. Chuta. Or same thing with Ninja. Ninja's very interactive. He's very vocal, very vibrant, does a lot of shit, and that's what makes it entertaining to watch. You have
Also,
a hook.
he's really fucking good.
Also, he's really fucking good. Yeah.
I think that's a little bit more of because it's not like a balanced system to where they're putting people of equal skill levels into Fortnite into those matches.
Yeah.
So like when he goes in there, you've got someone that's like pretty much the top of the game versus like average Joe's in there, so he's able to pull off like flying jump shots and all kinds of other shit.
As far as I
Couldn't do
know,
against skilled players.
as far as I know, there is no MMR.
I think it's just quicker matchmaking, and it's such a big pool. I don't think it's that big.
It doesn't make a real difference.
I mean, but how you even? It seems like such a troublesome thing to be able to calculate proper MMR for anyway.
Oh
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like
I
don't.
You're better because you win because you got lucky 5 games in a row or something.
Yeah, I'm not saying
Doesn't
that
really
I think
work
it
that way.
needs it. I'm just saying
I don't
his
think so at
stream
all.
is super.
Yeah, nah.
Because I was watching him and the other dude's name, Dr. Lupe. I was watching those two play, and they were doing all kinds of stuff to people that just had no idea what they should be doing to counter it.
Yeah, watching high level Fortnite is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've been playing a lot of Fortnite recently.
But yeah, anyway, back to Overwatch. So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. I kind of think we talked about the XQC stuff enough. Really.
Well, it got into other parts of conversation, but it's a big deal. It's what's going on in the community right now. And it's interesting to hear different parts of it because it is the birth of a league, and having big drama like this kind of shapes how things turn out. Big events like big famous people, lawsuits, big things are what change big events such as leagues. Like the NFL has changed over the years because of big things happening similar to this.
I mean, small things can.
And small things too, for sure. But what I'm saying
Small
is like
things.
it's just this is gonna stuff in the league in the future is absolutely going to change and be dictated based off of events that have happened here with XQC.
yeah.
So it's just it's nice to talk about that. Anyways, on to additional stuff going on with the league. Houston's not doing that well, so that's we're gonna
Next
move.
topic.
they're not.
Next topic. Boston's not doing that well. Okay, next topic.
Okay, we can talk about Boston. All right.
The Gladiators are fucking fantastic.
Gladiators have been doing
Gladiators are
This
very
is one of the
well.
most immediately successful trades in any esport I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that tank.
Just immediately. That's why I
that
was so
tank
glad when
pickup
they
that
saw it.
have.
I was
yeah,
like,
we can talk
that's
about
good.
the Gladiators for a little bit. I think.
Yeah, their only
I mean, we
loss.
talked about it too a little bit when it was first announced because I was like,
Mhm.
the biggest issue from their play was their tanks. Like I
Yeah.
think I remix. I don't know if it's just he wasn't good enough or he just had no synergy with Bishu, but the point is, as a team, they didn't play well enough.
I think
really
it's just that Fisher is on another
Fisher
level.
is he's ridiculous. He's like,
you know,
he's like the tank version of Jonok for that team. Like
well,
he's fucking killing people half the time, and the DPS
their tank line being set up like that now is setting up their DPS players who were good to start with, but like Surefour looked like he wasn't like performing that. I mean, he was consistently doing stuff, and so was Hydration. They were doing stuff, but now that they've got that tank line going in and getting that aggressive play and creating space like they're doing, I mean, those guys are really putting up good games.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Fisher's creating so much space. I mean,
there's
what was it? Was it London Strat or somebody's Strat? They were starting to counter them just by focusing Fisher every fight.
Yeah.
Because they were like, this guy has to die or we'll never get to their DPS or their healers. And they still ended up coming out over the top of them.
Yep.
Because Fisher's just like, oh, okay, I'll just change my play slightly. And then bam, right back into it.
Yeah, no, so Gladiators have been kind of knocking it out of the park, which has been really...
Yeah, that was a good pickup for them. They really needed that.
Well, because, I mean, Hydration, too, he's I think, I didn't see much of him before the league, but early on when I saw some of his really crazy Genji plays and stuff, I was like, this guy has some really insane highs. He needs more consistency, but when he has a tank setting him up properly, he has more opportunities where he can be in the positions where he can set himself up to be consistent and get that shit. So he's got some like fantastic shit, like fucking clip we didn't use because we didn't do a podcast last week. But that Genji, I
know Blizzard threw that one up there. That one that they did where he got a huge Genji play. Yeah,
he gets like a triple reset.
In the launcher, Blizzard threw the top plays that they were doing. And if you're watching this podcast, I'm assuming you definitely watched the Blizzard launcher shit. That one that Hydration had where was playing Genji and he pulled that giant multi-kill.
Yep.
Is it the one on Hanamura, the point A?
You can put it
inside of it where it was like Zenyatta.
You can put it in podcast thoughts.
Oh, okay. I'll put it in podcast thoughts. What did I fucking name it? I named it Stay Hydrated.
Stay Hydrated.
Look at the URL for this is great. Eager Darling Spaghetti Woofer.
Where is it? Where'd you put it?
Woofer. I just had to copy it from my Twitch clips page. Now I'm putting it in here. But Surefour too. We were talking about him a bit. Surefour, I've always had a lot of respect for that dude because he was one of the legacy Overwatch League players in a sense that like right from the start of the pro scene he was up there and one of the best at times on certain heroes and shit. And then we got to Overwatch League and we saw a lot of flashiness from like players that a lot of people hadn't seen before, like Fleta and
Linkser,
some of the other people, Linkser. So he kind of took a backseat in that sense. Also, the Gladiators just weren't super consistent as a team. But like I said, he goes into matches and sometimes takes some time to warm up. But you can't ignore Surefour. You can't ignore the Surefour because when he shows up and hits his shots, he really fucking hits them.
Yeah, the team struggling a little toward the beginning, I think, is what kept his name out of the running with those guys. Well, I think now that they have Fisher, he's going to be up on the end of it again.
I think Surefour's probably the most what's the word? Not stable. He's the most consistent. One of the most consistent players, straight up, in the league from the early days of back when he was on Cloud9 and there was no hero limit and they were running 2 Winston to double Winston, double Tracer, double Lucio back in those days. Even my food's here, dude. I'm hungry, man.
Well, all right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, hell yeah, let's wrap it up. Well, this is a brand new podcast. We can do whatever the hell we want. We can cut it short.
Exactly.
We can make it long.
Seriously.
We can do whatever.
I mean, Team Liquid's gonna play in like 20 minutes, so I'm down.
Let's wrap it up, dude. Yeah, hell no. Anyways, but one thing I did want to say though.
Oh wait. What? Yeah, go ahead. Talk about it.
Anyways, I was gonna say
before we go, I want to watch the fucking Nixel.
Okay, but anyways, show. As I was saying, Surefour is the most consistent player. Like he's been playing. I remember this one clip back in the No Limits days during the Gosu weeklies with fucking ZP and Hex, the good old days. And Surefour,
that good.
Yeah, I miss ZP. That's the only.
I miss ZP.
Did you see Contenders at all?
Yeah, dude, I love hearing.
I was watching a little bit.
ZP's good.
I miss
the
hearing
other guy's
him.
good. The host seems like she's not totally comfortable being a host. I don't know if that's a production side or she just hasn't done much before, but you know, I'm not trying to criticize her. I noticed it because I was like,
it's not like the regular leagues bringing the most dominant fucking analyst group anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I was just watching it and I was like, you know, obviously it's not a personal thing, but I was like, I feel like it's not even necessary for what they're doing. Like, because ZP and Jamerson were there, and 90% of the time it was them having, like, they talked 99% of the time, and then every 1% she'd say something, you know. And I think I don't necessarily think it's a her problem. I think their production is gonna be lower.
I think ZP can pretty much carry the Contenders thing on his own almost because he does a good job with it.
I mean, he's good enough to be on the fucking main desk.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
You know, personally here, we all three, I know at least Pax and I do think he's better than some of the ones that are currently on.
I agree.
I do. I definitely, especially the analyst desk. They should at least put him on the analyst desk because he knows.
I agree.
I mean, I don't want to talk bad about too many people, but I mean, Crumbs is.
Yeah,
I love Crumbs, but that's because I'm biased.
I don't dislike.
But
I don't dislike him as a person, but his analysis is like.
Well, yeah, it's been questionable. I think he needs
not
to
questionable.
Learn more
it's
about
not existent. I'm sorry, it's not existent.
I think the issue is because if you compare it to some other Blizzard stuff, so the the arena guys, the analyst desk for their thing, Venruki, Zico, those guys, every time that pops up and they go to ask some stuff, their analysis is dead on. And when they're not necessarily like what's going on, but they know exactly what happened, why it's set up, what went on, and they're able to be like, okay, what they should do here is run subtlety rogue instead of assassination rogue because that's going to be able to lock it up. And if they have those lockups, that's going to lead to them being able to beat this comp. And then as they're saying it, you see the team lock that exact composition in and then win that match.
Yeah,
and that's something that the analysts are doing. I mean, it's not like, I think they could win, or I think they could do this. Like, I think the analyst desk. I don't dislike any of the people on the analyst desk, but I think they need to get people that have like a little, because they've got some guys that have a little better in-depth knowledge of what's going on.
I was going to say, those guys more to the problem is there is a lot of depth to the strategy of what's being played and what's being done in Overwatch League, and none of that is being portrayed from the analyst desk. Like sometimes you'll hear Hex, or I hear Hex and Monty usually more than just about anybody else, and occasion Mr. X and Uber, but they'll occasionally come up with they have really good, like they'll talk about some sort of strategies that are being played behind the scenes. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like you'll actually learn something, but that's very rare and few and far between. And the analyst
Monty's been one of my favorite casters. Forever because he's. Super
but then you go to, but they're the casters.
The analyst desk almost feels like a catch-all. Like we wanted these guys. Yeah, it feels like the analyst desk is like we want these guys because they do. They're the guys we want to be in the program, but we're not quite sure what to do with them.
For example,
that's kind of how I feel.
I'm not a huge fan of Sideshow, but when he's the best analytical mind on the desk, it's like.
Well, I like that they've incorporated more humor and stuff into it. You know,
that's good. That's good.
Shit, that's good.
But like maybe just the host be the one doing that.
Because I think sometimes it comes across, at least to those of us who are really analytical and interested in the strategical side, as more of a dog and pony show. It's like they're just there for entertainment, and there's not much depth to anything they're saying.
I think every one of their analysts, could like do whatever, like the host role. Like they could be Puckett or Golden Boy. Like all of them could do that exact role pretty well. I think that they're filling them into the analyst slot. I think they have like a bunch of hosts and not enough analysts.
Exactly. Their analyst is non-existent. But the only reason why I mention Crumbs is because he's the most blatant example of this, because anything he says is the most basic thing I could possibly think of. Like when he goes, when the Tracer gets in the back line, what she's trying to do is get a bunch of damage and get those kills. It's like, well, yes, that's...
Well, to be fair, I know sometimes... I know sometimes in other esports too, they'll tell the talent to say incredibly obvious stuff for when they think there's going to be
new viewers. Oh, absolutely.
And stuff. So, but I know what you're saying too, because Crumbs, or even some of the stuff all of them say, like one of the things that I don't know, it kind of bothers me is a lot of the times they're like, when they go to predictions, right? Grant, they're just predictions. It's not like it really matters, right? It's not like
their predictions are terrible.
But a lot of the time, they're just like, well, I like green, so I think Valiant's are gonna win
that's ridiculous.
I'm like, hang on.
Sometimes what their stuff is.
You know what? Like, at least in the other esports I watch, most of the time the casters and the analysts are like, they'll say, well, the analysts, I guess, because the casters generally don't have a chance to make a prediction, right? But they'll say, I think this team is going to win, and here's why, and they give it like an actual strategic side. A lot of the time in Overwatch League so far, it's just who do you think's going to win, and then they just do it. They're just like, well, I ate an orange today, so San Francisco Shock's going to win.
No, every once in a while,
disappointing.
I was gonna say every once in a while, Bren or like Sideshow, when they'd ask him the prediction. Sideshow, I think it was the London versus Seoul, one of the recent matches or something. I can't remember, but I remember Sideshow said, "I think these guys are gonna win because of these circumstances. They practiced this much. They didn't prep for these guys. They stated on Twitter they are prepping for these guys. Their lineup that they're bringing out here for the first part of today is indicative that they're playing this style versus this. So this is why I think they're gonna win." That's a legit reason. And a lot of times, like you were saying, it's like, I got some apparel from Philadelphia. No offense, Bren, but I got some apparel from Philadelphia, so I think they're gonna win. It's like,
and it's funny. Bren, I like him. I really liked him when he was when they would put him with ZP, because ZP would essentially kind of do like how Mr. X and Uber do. Like Mr. X kind of does the like hard analysis of what's going on and what they can do to fix certain things, and then Uber makes it entertaining. Yeah, he makes it entertaining, and he's just knowledgeable enough that he can speak intelligently and keep it entertaining. Because Mr. X is fucking boring because he's so well, he's boring because he's so fucking in depth and knows what he's talking about so much. He gets like carried away with it, and then Uber can keep it back and keep it entertaining and going. So I think they're the best combo right now.
I agree totally. All right, we've kind of delved into all that enough. We sound really passionate, and if anybody gets offended by it,
well, I mean, if
it's not offensive, I don't like it. I don't dislike them.
If I was like, why do you think this team's gonna win? And you said, even if you didn't have real strategy, we were like, honestly, just looking at the things and seeing things, I just have a gut feeling. That's still fine, right? That's still a gut feeling. But half the time it's not that. It's just some silly shit, It's just like fucking. Why don't they just have a wheel that they put up there? Wheel of Fortune. Like, here's our predictions, guys. Spin the wheel.
The other thing I think of is they always dance around the thing of, well, they're winning more. And they never use that. It's like, well, that's a legitimate reason. Like, if you're saying, let's say we have a New York versus Dallas Fuel or New York versus Boston game, and they're like, what do you think's gonna win? New York. Why? Well, because they're better.
At least there's a reason. I think it's better. They've beaten everybody. No one's really had an answer for what they're doing. I have no idea what they're going to bring to the table this time, but with what they've been doing, there's no reason to think that they want to do it again.
Yeah. And
why are they going to win? Because Jonak is an extra damage.
Since we're on this topic, one thing that has also been kind of bothering me about the whole side of this, right, is a lot of times it's like, obviously I'm not trying to say like be mean to the teams that are like lower in rate, right? But it's almost like they're trying too hard to be too nice about some things.
Yeah.
Because like, and there's other examples, but one that gets to me lately is they'll be talking about, let's say Florida, right? Good example, right? They've been looking way better, right? Yeah. They actually have been looking way better. And but when they go in and they say like, actually it doesn't even matter the team, X player, right? Like, let's say any of the teams in the bottom half of the standings, you take X player and they're like, I think that this player is actually one of the best whatever and they're just like, they're one of the best, like, Zenyatas, right? And it's just like, okay, what do you mean best? They're one of the best in the world, of course, because they're in like the top 1%.
They're in the Overwatch League. Everyone in the Overwatch League is one of the best players in the world.
However, since we're only specifically talking about the Overwatch League, they're on the worst team. They're on like the bottom team, which doesn't necessarily belie their individual skill entirely, but like it's like they say almost everybody on every team is one of the top 4, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. There can only be 4. You can't have 8 top 4 people. It doesn't fucking work that way. Right? Well,
for instance, when we say
the bottom half, you could be on a losing team and be the best tracer.
Yes,
but it's
Foxia,
not as likely.
I ran the numbers, and you were correct. You cannot have 8 top 4.
Yeah, how long did it take to run those numbers?
Well, okay, but okay. So, for instance, when we hear on the podcast say Saviolvi's one of the best tracers,
He's the best. He is the best.
Okay, but when we say that, we're saying it because
Sinatra's gonna eat him up.
Because his damage numbers, his kill to death ratio, and his ability to be a harassment in the back line is more impactful than just about any other ones. That's including the fact that he can't land a pulse bomb to save his life.
Well, the
Imagine if
numbers
he
are
could
cold
land.
hard
Imagine if he
facts.
could land pulse bombs.
They're
Right?
zoning.
The
They're
numbers are cold
zoning
hard facts.
alts.
Yeah,
But it's
he's-
like,
yeah.
but again, there's a difference, right? Every player in Overwatch League is one of the best in the world because they are in Overwatch League. That's why. That's how you get in Overwatch League.
Yeah.
But since we're only
There's
talking
only,
about
what,
Overwatch
like 60
League,
people in Overwatch
you
League?
can't say every player in Overwatch League is one of the best
Like
in
120.
Overwatch League. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
How can everybody be top 5? That doesn't make no. There's only 5, 4. You know the numbers don't work that
There's
way.
4. Unless there's
It'd be
8,
like,
then
you
it's top 4.
All right, so this we just talked about the top 2 tracers. So let me tell you about how this third guy is also a top 2 tracer.
Yeah.
No,
Maybe
That's it.
best
2 is
tracer
the
in the
limit when
world.
you're talking
Maybe
about that.
best
Come on.
tracer in the world.
to be
fair-
didn't
to
they
be-
get destroyed by Saviobi when they
But it's
played him?
just like-
Well, yeah,
to-
but other than that, he's the best tracer in the world.
To be fair,
Yeah.
hold on. To be fair, we do not have stats out yet.
No.
They do. We don't. I
But
do
they're not
not.
talking
I,
about stats half the time.
That's
This is
true.
like
No, that's
this
true.
is the desk I'm talking about. And when they're doing the kind of like dog and pony show and they're just dancing around and stuff like we were just talking about, and they're just like, well, serious props to this guy. They're one of the best. I'm just like, okay, yeah. You can give them props without making shit pulling shit
Yeah.
out of your ass to try to make them sound even better than they are.
I like the dog and pony show, the pony and pony show. I like
Pony and pony show.
I like the pony up show. I
You
like
don't
that.
have to knock them, but you don't
The
have to
owl
make
and-
them out to be the best.
I
Yeah,
like
exactly.
yeah
Exactly.
I
That's
like
the thing that bothers me. It's like
yeah.
when you put them up there, you're almost taking a little bit of the credit from the people who actually are at the way top, even in the 1%.
Yeah.
Like these
Yeah.
people are the 1% of the 1%. That shit's ridiculous.
Like Fleta deserves his position as one of the
Yeah.
if not the top hit scan, like period. That
Hell
dude's
yeah.
absolutely insane. He deserves to be up there.
Mhm.
Surefour, he's super good. I'm not sure if he's the top.
He's like A tier. I would say Fleta's like S tier. You know,
But
There's a difference.
but then it depends what you're talking about. Talking about flexibility. Well, Surefour has a lot of flexibility. There's a lot. Flexibility is a hard one to gauge.
Yeah.
Like who's the most flexible
Yeah.
player? And I mean,
Exactly.
well, the answer is Flower, but he's not
Plus,
in Overwatch
I mean,
League
there's
yet.
always the fact that numbers themselves, especially in stats and Overwatch, don't always give you the true picture, right?
Oh,
What if you're
absolutely.
playing?
Yeah,
what
for
if you're
sure.
playing a DPS, and as far as your overall DPS in the game is lower than average, right? But every single kill you got was a huge kill that was a huge impact in every fight,
exactly.
right?
Oh,
Yeah,
what
the
if
numbers
you're
say
running-
you didn't do as well as another.
What if you're
DPS,
running
but
widows
the
on
impact.
each team? You know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
other team's widow is getting picks on DPS, but every time you go up, you pop both supports to start.
But I think
Yeah.
I
You
know
know?
Trent
Yeah.
gets what I'm trying to say, or
Yeah.
fish.
Well,
Yeah,
Doesn't get
I
what I'm saying.
got you.
It's just like you can talk people up without sugarcoating it and trying to make them.
Well,
It's
stats-
like they try to talk people up too much.
I would say stats are innately flawed to a degree, anyways, because especially on a game with as much complicated movements and stuff, because like it's a little bit easier, and even in football, stats can get muddled. Like when
Well, on top of that, the biggest thing about stats is nobody has the same playtime on the characters. No one has. It's not like football or something where you're in the same scenarios doing the same thing from the same position, and every team's doing that.
Yeah.
Like running a Widowmaker on one map is completely different than another map, and what
Yep.
you're doing with it's completely different. And you
Yep.
can run stuff in different setups. So the stats are the only time I think you can look at the stats and be like, okay, this definitively shows they're the best, is when it's something stupid like Jonak having more damage than the Bastion on the team. Like,
yeah,
you can look
stuff
at a stat
stuff like that.
and be
It's
like,
just like
okay, that has to mean something.
yeah,
Plus,
exactly.
there's also the fact that like sometimes, all right, if you take 2 teams and they're playing and both teams are having a really hard time, like I'm not talking like Seoul versus. I'm not talking like New York versus London where it's a super grind. I'm taking both these teams are. I mean, they're in Overwatch League, so they're good. But they're like, if you take 2 bottom teams, right, and they have
Right.
difficult closing out the game versus the other one, sometimes these games get drawn out and the numbers are inflated just because
Yeah.
neither team
Yeah.
was good enough to win. You know,
Yeah.
that can happen too. You
Well,
can be like,
that's-
wow,
well,
this
the ten-
DPS did 4 billion damage in this game, but
The-
the only reason they did that much damage is because fucking
Well, that's
neither
why.
team could win.
That's why
Yeah.
a lot of the stats that are like purely like a cumulative number based are based off of per 10 minute. They do that.
Yeah,
a lot
exactly.
of those.
Well,
That-
still, but it's
that
but the
is
per
better,
10 minutes
but yeah.
still can't be the best still because it's all different scenarios.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're you're right.
Yeah, I think for the stats to be relevant with the way that things work, they almost have to be in the outlier stuff. And on top of that, most of the Overwatch is one of the few games where a ton of it has nothing to do with stats.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, stats are nice, damage is nice, but like say Muma's on Winston and he uses his ult, knocks 6 dudes off the payload in one jump, times it out, and ends the map. That doesn't show up on a stat anywhere.
Yeah,
no.
It's like
it's
like the environmental kills, but it doesn't really show the impact on the actual scenario at hand.
Yeah, I mean, he could have just single-handedly won him the game, but that's not going to show up on any of the stats. He'll still be at the top of the stats because Moon is the best Winston, but like that doesn't change my point.
Well, and that's why people, and then for that exact reason, that's why people wanted in competitive ladder for the not to take stats into account, but to be the MMR on competitive to be based off of purely win-loss, because there's so much that's involved that you can't account for with stats.
Yeah, and stats are obviously really nice, right? They're nice to have, especially if you're an analyst or something, because the main use is they help you, they help you like draw conclusions and like get better ideas of what's going on. But some people, I think, tunnel too hard on the idea that there has to be this hard line like stats for everything, because at the end of the day, you can watch the game and you can see what's going on, and you could see even if this player did less stats, you could watch them fucking do some shit like you explained, like Movement knocked 6 people off. That's not in the stats, but you could see that happen, and you could see the impact live.
Like, oh my god,
that did for the game. So
or like the Doomfist stuff where they like uppercut a Winston out of a bubble and then his teammate picks him off. The teammate's gonna get credit for all the kill and everything else, but that never would have happened.
Put the hydration clip in podcast host in case we got into it, but hydration, like he it's not like he gets a billion kills, right? But he goes in on the Doomfist and just fucks up all the positioning for London. Just makes it so they can't do anything they want to do.
Being on the character,
he does get some kills too, but he just
like when the
goes in
team's
there and disrupts it.
Yeah, like when the teams have one of the top tier widows on their team, now they have to play a completely different game because they can't stand in lanes and fight in lanes. They have to play around corners. Yep. And like even if that widow doesn't get a single pick off, it's a completely different setup now.
Yeah, it's just that impact. Yeah, not in the stats, but you're completely changing the way the enemy team has to play.
Now everyone has to hide, and now all of a sudden you've got someone running a Junkrat, diving in on him and killing the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Plus, you could be a widow. You could be the best widow in the world and get less headshots than another one because
just click on the head.
Because the team that you were playing against didn't pop out and hide. Granted, that's usually when you swap, right? To make a bigger impact with a different hero. But the stats can be deceiving, of course.
That's true.
Maybe that's why the analysts have a lot of problems. Drawing.
I don't know.
I don't.
Maybe.
I'm just joking. That's not an excuse.
Well, some of them are super good and accurate on the stuff that they do, so it's not impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no. I think it's interesting because we do have one person who used to play pro in Overwatch, right? Mm-hmm. We have Reinforce, as I always call him.
Reinforce. Well, I mean, I guess he wasn't pro, but Mr. X is like Master Grandmaster League.
Oh,
he's really good.
Like in League of Legends, Freak. Very popular caster. He's like not pro, but he helped develop the game, I think, and he's always been like at least diamond or higher. So he has a good aspect on like that specific. But I think it's interesting because even Reinforce, who was a pro, not in Overwatch League, some of the stuff he says, I'm just like, I guess I shouldn't disagree with him because he knows more than I do. But some of the stuff I'm just like,
it's also a game that's in its infancy, and the meta, and so a lot of opinions are super subjective. Yeah, and not a lot has been ironed out. So I mean, when people say something, even if it's a pro, a lot of it has to be taken with a grain of salt because there's a lot of stuff that has yet to be ironed out.
Plus I think we'll see, right? Like a year or 2 years down the road, some of these pros might retire and then end up being, and then we might have better analysis because this person was like imagine if Surefour retired and then was on the desk talking about DPS and stuff, right? I'm sure he has a lot of intelligent stuff he could throw in, and it'd be, good shit because you'd be like, well, this guy totally proved that he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, to be one of the most consistent DPS in the entirety of professional Overwatch, as well as having an incredibly deep roster and being able to play any hero at a very high level. I think his input would be well received if he ever decided to go into that.
Yeah, stuff like that.
But all right, we're gonna go ahead and end the show early. Woo! I'm gonna go eat tacos.
Whee!
Yeah. Anyways,
you didn't go to Taco Bell?
My brother did. It's over there.
Oh, you made your brother do it?
Yeah.
Good. Make him do something.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Is that his job now?
Give me Taco Bell every day. Anyways, all right, we're going to end today's show. Thank you all for watching. If you would like to get in contact with us, you could do so through Gmail at onetreeheropodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Or none of the above. Or was it AM radio? We're on AM radio, right? Or
Yeah, we're
FM.
on AM.
Are we on
not
ham radio,
FM.
though?
Not
Are we
Only
FM.
AM.
Are we on ham
Only
radio?
AM.
We're on iHeartRadio. Just kidding. No, we're not.
Are we on ham radio though?
What's ham radio?
We're on ham radio.
No, ham radio.
We are in some sectors, but we don't like to talk about that. But in case of an emergency, we will be on ham. We have the capability.
Anyways, thank you guys for watching and listening. We will be back next week with episode 11, where we will have more rambling. If you have any critiques or
Next
anything
week's
you'd
the
like
playoffs.
to... Next week is the playoffs, so we will have more to talk about.
Yeah.
Very good
I
stuff.
wish we would have talked more about the matchups and the teams a little bit than XQC, but whatever, you know. I guess we can do that after playoffs.
It's just the rambling podcast. One Trick Hero is all about nothing right now. We're going to figure out what we're
but
about.
I mean, there was more interesting stuff going on than just. I mean, like look at like you know all the teams, Valiant's like fucking not you know plateauing pretty
yes.
hard. You know, there's a lot of other things interesting.
Next week
we should stop it. But
Maybe we'll throw in some Tuesday shenanigans.
Ooh, you never know.
We'll be
Anything
talking
can
about some
happen.
playoff stuff. I don't know.
We're going to fire off with our Houston guns. Okay,
Wait,
anyways,
yeah.
we will talk to everybody later. We'll see you all next week, and thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.